Yo, what's up, guys? We're back for another breakdown and predictions video. This week we got another UFC Fight Night card in the Apex with Edson Barboza taking on Lerone Murphy in the main event. And honestly, I think this card is a little weak compared to some recent cards that we've been getting. But either way, man, we're going to break it down. And I do got a few bets. I got a big underdog bet that I'm going with this week. I got a couple other plays that I think could come to fruition that I'm pretty confident on. So like always, man, patreon.com/Guru. That's the best way to support the channel and get yourself a little bit of extra money through some bets and earn some extra content as well over there. This week, there's a ton of different promotions, man, like a lot of events that they can bet on. So this is a great week to go over there and sign up and check it out. Already got a full card breakdown for Bellator's card. I got quite a few bets for that Bellator card. I think I got 12 bets, so that's a card that I'm pretty confident on. So definitely go over there, check that out, man. Would really encourage you guys to do that. And besides that, hit the like button on this video. Let's try to get over 100 likes. Subscribe if you're not subscribed. Put a comment down below. Always appreciate all the support that I get on this channel. And tomorrow I'm going to be doing another live stream video at 9 p.m. Pacific time. So come check that out. Come listen. We're going to be giving you guys a little bit more of a betting breakdown as opposed to this type of breakdown I'm doing where it's more prediction based. So come check it out. And definitely appreciate your guys' support, coming in, talking in the chat, things like that. But let's get into this first fight of the night. And the first fight of the night is Vanessa Demopoulos taking on Emily Ducote. And there's been a lot of money that's came in on Ducote throughout this week, and I get it, but at this point, I think the line is pretty wide, man, and I do think this is a fairly close fight. I feel like Ducote is a lot prettier than Vanessa Demopoulos, and when you see both of them striking, you see one person is much more fluid, they're moving, they're cleaner, they have better distance control, more rhyme and reason to their striking game, and that's Ducote by far, and you want to look at that and pick her clearly. But there's some intangibles that I don't like about Ducote, really. She usually throws one strike at a time. She's not very powerful. It doesn't seem like she has a lot of commitment with her punches. Like, she tends to kind of just touch and run. And we've seen her get some head kick knockouts, things like that. But that's not obviously a likely strike you're going to land. And with Vanessa, we kind of got the opposite style of fighter where she's not pretty at all. She's throwing these wild looping hooks and really awkward strikes. And but what she does have is big power. I mean, if she connects, she definitely has the power advantage. And she has great cardio. She's going to be coming forward, throwing strikes. And if she's throwing and missing and Ducote is not throwing as much volume as Demopoulos, even if she's landing the cleaner strikes, it could end up playing a little bit closer on the scorecards than you would expect. And then, obviously, Demopoulos is the better grappler, even though Ducote's a black belt. I feel like Demopoulos would much rather be on the ground than Ducote, even if she's on her back. But I will say, Ducote, I think it has the ability to shut things down if Demopoulos wants to play that guard game, and that could be a path where Demopoulos loses herself the fight by being too confident in her jiu-jitsu off bottom. But if Demopoulos can get into a good position on the ground, then that is her world, and that's the way she usually gets her finishes. But ultimately, I am going to lean Ducote just because I think she's going to be able to control that distance, probably land the cleaner strikes, and just be a little bit more effective, probably be able to deny the takedowns. And if Demopoulos pulls guard or something, maybe get some top control time and win around that way. But I just think at this price, someone like Ducote, who's not necessarily a super high volume fighter, not super dangerous, Demopoulos could maybe make it a little bit closer. But I'm going to go with Ducote here via decision. And up next here, we got a fight that I have a pretty confident read on here with Aljamain taking on Cleiton Rodriguez. And Cleiton Rodriguez, he's making the move up to 135. Actually, this is his second fight at 135. He had the Boschrout fight where he didn't really show much. He got submitted quickly in the first round. And now he's going to be looking to maybe show a little bit more of himself and what he could do at 135. But he's got a tough opponent in Aljamain in front of him who is going to be hungry coming off a couple losses, even though he's been fighting some pretty high-level competition. And he's going to be having to get a win. His back is against the wall here. He's facing a flyweight, and he's on a 2-fight losing streak. So if he loses this one, he might be getting his walking papers. So he's going to be motivated coming into this fight. And you look at how these guys match up. Kleidson Rodriguez, very explosive fighter early. He throws a lot of really nice kicks. He will mix in those flying knees, fast 1-2s, and has power, especially at 125 when he's fighting there. He's a lot bigger guy, and he was able to run through a lot of lower-level opponents with just his athleticism and explosiveness. And he even, destroyed Shannon Ross in the UFC, so he got that victory there. But we've seen, if you pressure him, get on the inside, he doesn't necessarily have the greatest boxing or the greatest boxing defense, and his gas tank was definitely a problem at 125, had trouble making weight, so that could potentially have been part of the problem. Maybe you have a better gas tank on 135. That's still kind of to be determined, but from what we've seen, he slows down, and he has decent offensive wrestling, but I don't see him being able to take down an opponent like Aljamain. And if you take him down, put him on his back, he is not good off bottom. So that's another issue for him. And you got Aljamain Healy, who I think is a better fighter skill-wise than he shows, just because he doesn't have the greatest fight IQ, in my opinion. Like, his last fight with Chris Gutierrez, right? He just kept it standing for the first 2 rounds, and it was competitive, but he got leg kicked to death and lost those 2 rounds. And then third round, he just took Chris Gutierrez down easily. It's like, if he could have taken him down earlier, that definitely could have been beneficial for him in winning a decision, but just didn't. Too little, too late. And in this fight, I think he needs to pressure, get on the inside, use that durability, which he's notorious for. Land that big left hook, land his right hand. I think he's going to have the better punches on the inside. And mix in the wrestling, man. Go to the wrestling earlier. And I think if he could take down Kleidson, Aljamain doesn't necessarily have like a big submission threat or anything like that, but he could break him. He could wear on him and maybe end up knocking him out or just decisioning him. So I think Aljamain Healy is the better fighter here. I like the fact that he's the one fighting in his natural weight class. Kleedson's going to be a little bit smaller. I don't think that Rodriguez is going to have the same type of physical advantages he had at 125. I'm not sure if he's going to have the power to knock a guy out like Aljamain Healy. And if he can't finish him early, I don't trust his gas tank, especially against a guy that has good cardio, is going to pressure. And I think that if he gets put on his back, that's going to be a problem. So give me Aljamain here to pull the slight upset and get this victory. And next we got our second women's fight on the card with Pinero Rodriguez taking on Ariane Carnelossi. And a bit of a difficult fight to break down just due to layoff from Carnelossi. She hasn't fought in a little bit over 2 years, I believe, and I'm just not sure what she's been doing. I don't know what the reason for the layoff was. And if she was a little bit more active and had shown some improvements, maybe I would consider her as an underdog because I'm not super impressed with Rodriguez. But honestly, with the layoff, lean a little bit more towards Pinero Rodriguez. Pinero Rodriguez is a girl that I faded a couple times. I faded her against Valeska Machado, Tina Blackheart in Contender Series, and shout out to her. She got the job done there against someone that I think is a really good fighter in Tina Black. And I believe I picked against her again in one of her other fights. But, yeah, at this point, looking at Rodriguez's last fight, I feel like I'm just not super sold on her overall. I think that she isn't great anywhere. She's kind of just okay everywhere. This fight, I think that she's going to have the footwork advantage, though. She's going to be able to move around and maybe land that rear cross over the top and mix in the single and the double leg. She seems like her wrestling is okay. It's not the greatest, but it's not bad. She took down Sam Hughes a few times, and Sam Hughes kind of brings that similar style a little bit to Carnelossi, where she's going to be pressuring. She's going to be throwing a lot of volume, trying to press you and force the action. Carnelossi is a little bit more physical than a girl like Sam Hughes. But I feel like it's a good fight to look at to see how she's going to handle Carnelossi Rodriguez. And cardio, I'm a little bit worried about. I think Carnelossi has good cardio. Rodriguez can slow down in fights, and if that happens, maybe Carnelossi could get something going. But ultimately, I think Rodriguez is going to be able to control the fight with her moving around, throwing that volume with her hands, even though they're a little sloppy, and then mixed in a takedown or two and just being a little bit more professional fighter and a little bit more active and getting the job done that way. I think Carnelossi is going to fight hard and be aggressive, be tough like she usually is, try to come forward, bring that Vanderlei Silva style. But I just think that she's not going to find the range as much as she wants to. And when she tries to back Rodriguez up, Rodriguez is going to get a couple takedowns. So give me Rodriguez to win a decision in this one. And this next fight, this is the fight that I was telling you guys I got a big upset prediction. And I'm going to go with Warlley Alves in this one. Interesting matchup, man. I mean, I used to be a big fan of Warlley Alves. This was a few years back. I felt like he was a high-level fighter at one point and kind of fell off, had some really bad performances. You know, he seemed like he was unmotivated at times, and you could even argue at this point, I've seen people talking about how he's at 185 and coming for his last couple paychecks, and that could potentially be the deal. And if Warlley comes out here and just gets slept in the first round, you know, that's the game we play when we're picking these underdogs or older guys and things like that. But man, no USADA, you know, the old Brazilians are back. I feel like potentially, you know, maybe they're going to be coming back in here and having some good performances. But yeah, I mean, Warlley got destroyed his last fight against Ikram Aliskarov, where didn't really get much going, flying knee early and then TKO'd. So his durability is something you definitely have to question at this point in his career. But I feel like his fight previous to that, when you watched his fight with Nicholas Dalby, that was a very good fight. It was a competitive fight. I feel like Warlley dominated the third round, which against Nicholas Dalby, that's tough to do. Nicholas Dalby is usually a guy that's a cardio machine that wears you down and beats you as the fight goes on, but it was Warlley who was walking down Nicholas Dalby and landing his biggest punches in the third round. So Warlley's cardio, at least from his most recent performance, it checked out. Even though that was at 170, I feel like cardio-wise, Warlley is going to have the edge here. Even though both these guys aren't necessarily known as condition machines or anything like that, and it's actually the opposite, I think Warlley's cardio is going to hold up better if he is in any semblance of shape here. And also, I feel like boxing-wise, Alves is a pretty significant advantage. You look at Magomedov's hands, all looping, kind of casting, those Russian casting shots where he's looping his punches. I am a little bit worried about the long uppercuts and just those strikes down the middle, potentially catching Warlley. But hands-wise, I feel like Alves has a big advantage. You know, he throws some nice 1-2s. He has a good check hook. He has fast hands. He throws big punches. He walks you down. And he needs to get back to that here. He can't be hesitant on the outside. In this one, he has to walk down Magomedov, try to push the pace, be aggressive, throw hard shots. And Magomedov has a little bit of a suspect chin as well. So both these guys have durability issues. Magomedov, I'm sure one thing everyone's sitting on this week is his gas tank, and that's a big issue. But I also think he's a little bit of a quitter, man. I mean, you see him getting hit and just kind of crumbles and gives up when he's taking some damage. We saw that in that fight with Kyle. He survived, but almost got finished there. The Strickland fight, just kind of gave up after he got hurt. So if Alves hurts him, man, the guy's a killer, and he's going to get him out of there if he hurts Magomedov. So I think Warlley round 2, round 3 could materialize, honestly. And obviously Magomedov, you know, long striker, someone that can mix it up and wrestle, but I don't think he's going to want to wrestle Warlley just because even though he's the bigger guy, Warlley has that really nasty guillotine. And even if he takes down Warlley, I don't think he's going to do much to him on the ground. And Warlley could get back up. So it's not really worth the energy expenditure, I don't think, for Magomedov, probably in his eyes either. Magomedov, I think he's going to be looking to feint, move, throw those front kicks up the middle, which both these guys have nasty front kicks to the body, so watch out for that from both guys. But Magomedov, I think, is going to be trying to use his length, get Worley to come in and then maybe land a knee up the middle, front kick to the face, and try to get Worley out of there early. But I just don't think that he's going to have the cardio if this fight gets in the second to third. And Worley, if he doesn't get finished early, I think he's going to look like the favorite in this fight. So with the line being the way it is, the inside the distance prop line being the way it is, I think Worley's the play here, and I'm going to go with Worley Alves to get this upset victory over Abus Magomedov. And up next here, I'm not going to have a long breakdown for this one. Originally, I thought this line might be a little bit wide, but after looking into it a little bit more, I think this is Gatto all day. It's a layup win for her. She has a couple losses in a row, but this fight should be an easy victory if you ask me. Vidal, just not impressed her at all. I faded her in her last fight against Monster at Rendon at pretty decent plus money for Rendon and picked up the victory there, so I was happy for that. This time, obviously we're getting her as a big underdog, but it's not appealing to me. I just don't like Vidal style-wise. I feel like she's just not the greatest. I mean, even if you look at her, she doesn't come in the greatest shape to fight, but she throws single strikes. I mean, it's looping shots. She did land that flying knee or the double knee on Ramona Pascual, but outside of just having some power and a little bit of dynamic striking ability, I just don't see a lot from Vidal. She'll attack with submissions from her back, but she's not going to submit someone like Gatto. And Gatto, to me, is just going to move much better. She's going to be throwing those front kicks to the body, which I think could potentially lead to a finish here. Vidal is soft to the body, and I really do feel like that maybe could materialize. Gatto has nice 1-2s, a good jab. She has good body lock takedowns, good ability to find the back. And I just feel like she's fought way better opponents. She has good cardio. Everything checks out for her. She's strong. She's physical. So I just feel like she has all the boxes covered versus Vidal. And Vidal just isn't great anywhere to me. I don't think she has the ability to knock out Gatto more than likely. I don't see her submitting her. And I definitely don't see her winning a decision. So I think Gatto could win this one inside the distance or via decision. So, yeah, man, I feel like this is a good parlay piece here with Melissa Gatto. And up next, we got Victor Martinez versus Tom Nolan. And Nolan's, once again, a pretty significant favorite here, even after losing as a huge favorite in his UFC debut. But I do believe that this is a better matchup for him with Victor Martinez. Victor Martinez, he also lost his UFC debut versus Jordan Levitt, got knocked out with a knee to the head, so both these guys, they're coming in here with something to prove, and they got to get the job done. Victor Martinez, he's going to be pumped up, man, because he's a main training partner for CDF. We just saw CDF put it down and get a huge win as an underdog. So Martinez is going to have some confidence off of that. But he is definitely in a tough fight here with Tom Nolan. Just size-wise, man, I feel like Martinez is not a 155er. I think he should move down to 145, even 135 maybe. I mean, I don't know how low he could go, but I feel like he's definitely not a 155er, and 5'8" versus 6'3", he's facing one of the biggest 155 guys at this weight in the lower kind of ranks where he's at, and it's just going to be hard physically for him, I feel like, but Martinez, I think, is decent fighter. He has all right takedown defense. His boxing is actually pretty good. He has a nice jab. He puts his hands together pretty well in combination. He could slip and rip, and he's always coming forward with that pressure. His chin is a little suspect, but he's tough. I mean, I've seen him get dropped and come back in fights. I don't like his kick defense at all. I feel like he really struggles with kicks, and Nolan is definitely going to come with it. Martinez also doesn't throw kicks. He doesn't wrestle. He's just a one-dimensional boxer in there. So he's looking to, get his hands going, and that's how he's going to beat you. And he's not necessarily a power puncher either. So I don't think he has a great style for UFC. But Tom Nolan, reckless, and we saw him pay for that in his debut with Nicholas Motta, where came in there with the power puncher, got clipped, and knocked out early in the fight. And with Victor Martinez, I don't see as much risk of that happening because I just don't think Martinez has that same kind of power. And Nolan is actually going to be the much more powerful guy in there, I believe, in this matchup. But Nolan, long striking, he's technical, throws good kicks, throws some nasty knees, fast straight punches, very sharp, he's accurate, high volume, and he goes out there and tries to take you out quick. And hopefully that knockout loss doesn't make him hesitant or kind of timid and change his style. But I think there could have been some potential jitters and issues mentally with his pro debut, or his UFC debut, excuse me, and that could potentially be gone for this fight. So I think Nolan should get the job done, win via knockout at some point in this fight with the knee, with the kick. But the line is a little bit wide for someone 0-1 coming off a big knockout loss. But Tom Nolan should get the win here, and this is a matchup that they're setting up to get the victory. And closing out the prelims, we got the UFC debut of Sadibou C's brother, Omar C, and he's going to be taking on Tuco Tokos, and this is the third opponent for C on this date. So you know that the UFC is high on him, and they want him to fight on this card, or they wouldn't have found him 3 opponents, you know, so definitely C's a big-time prospect, and I think he actually was getting a lot easier opponent and Antonio Chicoli, than Tokos. But Chicoli pulled out, and his original opponent was Bellato, the Brazilian guy. So Bellato would have been a fun fight to watch. Both those guys would have went in there and banged it out. But with Tuco Tokos, I think this is a hard matchup for him, man. I mean, the guy's skilled, trains at Kill Clip, so you know he's getting some high-level looks and things like that. But he's someone that likes to work off the jab and kind of fade back, counter-strike. He lets himself get backed up too much, and he has some power in his hands and decent hands. But I feel like with the range, you know, looking at a guy in Sius 6'5" with the 84-inch reach, he's going to have a 9-inch reach advantage. I think it's going to be tough for Chokos to get his striking style to be effective. And then Sai is very athletic. I feel like his striking is a work in progress, but he throws nice straight punches. He has a good head kick, powerful guy as well, so he has the ability to knock you out, and we've seen Tokos get knocked out previous fights. And Omar C also has very good wrestling. He can take you down, very nice blast double. He's aggressive and really shoots hard. And I feel like he's probably going to be able to win this fight. Honestly, though, I think that he doesn't have that faith in his striking to really keep it a stand-up fight, even if he has the ability to potentially get the knockout there, which I think he would in this matchup. And he's going to likely shoot and make it more of a wrestling match. And in there, I think Tokos has decent jiu-jitsu. Front chokes aren't bad, and he has the ability to survive down there. So Omar C is good ground and pound, and he's a decent finisher, but I feel like this one could potentially go to decision. I think this is one of the higher-level guys that Umar has fought. UFC debut, third different opponent. We could see him maybe a little bit reserved in there. So I'm going to say Omar C goes in there and wins a pretty easy decision with a lot of top control time, but he doesn't get the finish that most people are likely going to predict him to get. And kicking off the main card here, we got Luana Pinero. She's taking on Angela Hill. And good matchup here. I mean, two girls that are ranked, and it's another chance for Luana Pinero to kind of get that big victory. Even though she got the win over Michelle Waterson, a lot of people felt like that was a questionable decision. And then she went in there with Amanda Hebos and did well early, but gassed herself out and ended up getting finished. So now she's getting this kind of third and final chance to establish herself as one of the upper echelon fighters in the weight class. And Angela Hill is still around. She's still that gatekeeper to the kind of top 10, top 15 of the division. And she still has further aspirations where she wants to continue to move up the division and maybe finally get in her position to get in that top 5 and things like that. But stylistically, Luana Pinero, I mean, she has the ability to give anybody problems just with their aggressiveness, physicality, empowerment. I mean, her last fight was crazy. She came out just like a bat out of hell in the first round. She was throwing bombs on Mandy Hebos and very wild, unrefined striking, but she's willing to go for it. Athletic and powerful, and she even rocked Hebos, had her a little bit wobbly, busted her face up pretty good. So Pinero definitely has some power, and although I don't think that she has that technicality in long term, I think once Angela Hill finds her range and the distance and Pinero calms down a little bit and the athleticism speed difference closes up due to the cardio, Hill will cruise. But we did see, Mackenzie Dern get real wild on Hill and have success and rock her. So Pinero, she has to use that blueprint, man. Get wild, be aggressive, use her striking to get in on those judo throws, hit some takedowns, look for the submission early, but leave enough in the tank to go 3 rounds. Because we saw with the Mandy Hebos, she gassed herself trying to get that finish in the first round, and she's tended to do that in all of her fights. And if she does that against Angela Hill, we know Angela Hill's the consummate professional and a super veteran, man. She's fought everybody. She herself slows down a little bit, but she maintains her gas take much better than Pinero. She's had 5-round fights, and she's not going to get tired in this kind of matchup because her opponent is going to fade, and that's only going to make Hill stronger. And on the feet, Angela Hill is going to throw the leg kick. She's going to be feinting, moving, point fighting, using her speed, her technical Muay Thai striking. I think she's gotten a lot better with their grappling defense, and she's training with a lot of judo girls, Jenna Bishop, Jessica Panay, for years. So I think that she's going to be ready for that judo. She may be able to reverse a couple of these throws that Pinero goes for and get on top. And if she can get on top, I think she could control and really wear Pinero out. And I think ultimately this fight's going to come down to savviness, veteran experience. And I feel like early on, Angela Hill is going to start a little bit slow. She's older. And I think she has started slow a lot in more of her recent fights. But I think once she finds that rhythm, gets her range, she's going to start to pick apart Pinero. And if Pinero gets desperate for takedowns, I think Hill could reverse, get on top, really get Pinero tired. And obviously with Angela Hill, I mean, there's not a big finish threat there, so it's likely going to be a decision. Pinero, I tried to fade Hill in her last fight and say that Gomes was going to get the first round knockout, but that was kind of silly. Hill's never been knocked out, and wishing for a knockout at 115-pound women is not probably the greatest idea. So I do think that Pinero could maybe get the knockout in the first, but if that doesn't happen, I think Angela Hill's going to win this one. So give me Angela Hill to win this via pretty dominant decision. And up next here, Adrian Yanez versus Vanessa Salvador. And originally, before looking at the tape on this one, I was thinking Salvador potentially was a live dog here because I didn't like Yanez's last couple fights, especially his last fight where I feel like he just came in and looked like a complete idiot because, like, anybody in the world, even the biggest casual Jonathan Martinez fan there is, could have told you the game plan for Martinez was to go in there and kick, and it looked like Adrian Yanez was like going in there with no defense for the leg kick. So that was very stupid of him and his team, or maybe he just didn't execute the game plan. But having said that, digging into this one a little bit deeper, looking at these guys' fights, I got Yanez all day in this fight. I felt like Salvador potentially was live, but I just don't see many paths to victory for Salvador in this one. I mean, doesn't have a grappling threat. If anybody has the better grappling, it's Yanez by a mile. Yanez, I think, would be better suited, or it would be smarter for him to start mixing in takedowns, throwing a little bit more kicks, just being a little bit more than one-dimensional with his boxing. And his kicking game has come a long way. He is a black belt, so I wish he would show up his grappling a little bit more. But either way, this fight, it's a good matchup for him. You look at Vinicius Salvador, this guy's kind of like a flashy point fighter that can get some, I mean, he's gotten some knockouts against real low-level opponents, and most of his wins are knockouts, but I just don't rate those fighters that he was fighting that highly. But Salvador, he's good in the pocket. I mean, that's what he wants to do. He wants to bait you into the pocket where he has good eyes, good head movement, and he can kind of slip and rip on you, and he could find these nice one-shots and hurt you. And at 125, he has power for that weight division. Moving up to 35s, I just don't see him. I don't see that power translating as much, especially against these higher level opponents. I don't think many guys are going to sit there and play that game with Salvador. And I feel like Yanez is going to be smart. He's not going to just sit in the pocket. He's going to mix it up, be in and out. He's going to be feinting. He is going to be a little bit savvier than the guys that Salvador has caught. And you look at the level of opposition that Yanez is fighting in comparison to the level of guys Salvador is fighting, and Salvador's not even getting the win over these guys like Altamirano, like CJ Vergara. So unless he just catches them with something wild in an exchange in the pocket, I feel like Yanez is going to walk this guy down. He's going to put his hands together. He's going to mix in a few kicks. He's going to have the volume advantage. He's going to be the guy coming forward. Vinicius is probably going to be taunting him and trying to trick the judges, with his antics to think that he's winning the fight. But ultimately, I think Yanez is going to end up putting some damage on him and maybe even be able to get him out of there. But Salvador's pretty durable. He's tough and he's hard to hit. So I wouldn't be shocked if this one goes to decision either. Yanez by decision is a decent price. But yeah, I think Yanez is going to get this one done. I think he's going to get back on track. And I just feel like he's better everywhere. I don't see a lot of advantages for Salvador. And if he goes in here and gets knocked out or gets outboxed by a 125er with not necessarily the greatest striking to me, that's probably the end of Yanez as a prospect. So he needs to win this one, and I think he will. And in this next matchup, we got the return of Ramzi Brahimaj, who's coming back after a couple years away from competition, taking on Themba Greenbow, who's surging, been in the news a lot recently. And it's kind of funny. It's like you got one side where it's like he has people that are cheered for him with the Rock story. And, this week he had some couple other things he was talking about. And then you got other people, calling him a scam artist and all that. So, I don't know. I mean, it seems like Themba is a guy that creates visceral reactions on both sides for people. Even when people are talking about his style, like some people really like him, his fighting style, and some people kind of shit on his fighting style. So the jury's still out on Themba. There's people that like him, there's people that doubt him. And there's a lot of people that are picking Ramzi in this matchup. And I get it. I mean, you look at Themba Greenbow, you watch his fight with AJ Fletcher, for instance. You see him get taken down, and off his back, it didn't look good. But I feel like Themba, he's getting better. He has gotten some big breaks where he doesn't have to worry about finances as much, and he's been living in the gym. It seems like he's in a great area training over there in Florida. A lot of great guys to work with, and I feel like Ramzi, coming in here off a long layoff, hasn't really beaten anybody. You look at all his wins, they're all first-round submissions, and he has a good wrestling game as well. So that's going to be his path to victory, man, for me, if you ask me. I think he's going to have to take down Themba in the first round, take his back, choke him out, get an arm triangle, submit him early. Maybe he could submit him early in the second round, but I think as this fight continues to go on and as the clock evaporates, gets into the second, third round, I feel like Themba's going to be getting better. He has really, really good cardio, and Ramzi is going to be slowing down. And on the feet, I feel like maybe technically, if you look at it, like Ramzi throws better combinations and has slightly better hands, but I feel like Themba's the better striker because he's more powerful We saw him knock out Pete Rodriguez in his last fight with one punch, which is pretty impressive. And I think he's a more dynamic mover. He's going to have a pretty significant reach advantage. And he's just going to be, I think, faster, a little bit slicker on the feet, and a little bit more dangerous. And Ramzi, I do think is going to take him down early. So that's kind of the question for me. And that's why this line is close, I believe, because is Ramzi going to submit him in that first round if he could take him down? That's what we're going to see. If he can, then that's going to be Ramzi going home, getting that first round sub, and cashing 2 checks. But I think that Themba is going to have improved there, man. And I think that even if he gets taken down, he might be able to scramble, survive. And we've seen Ramzi get out wrestled and held on his back. It doesn't seem like he's necessarily the greatest off bottom. We saw that in the fight with Court McGee. And his cardio is bad. So I'm not necessarily thinking that he's going to have improved that off a layoff, only being older. So honestly, I lean towards Themba. I just like his career trajectory a little bit better at this point. You know, he's been fighting, he's been active, he's been winning, he's had some good stuff going on in his life. Whereas Ramzi, he's coming off a long layoff. He is coming off a win, but it was against a really low-level opponent, and he's never been able to win a fight that's gone past the first round. So give me Themba in this one. I think he's going to win in the second or third via KO TKO, or maybe even, I don't think he's going to get a submission. I think it'll be a KO TKO on the ground, or maybe he'll catch him on the feet. And in this next one, in the co-main event, we got an explosive fight between Chaos Williams and Carlston Harris. And another fight where we got a guy coming in here off of a layoff. With Chaos Williams, he hasn't fought in a while. And I don't know why he hasn't fought, but man, I mean, if this guy's been out there, he's been training, he's been getting some good looks in, getting better, definitely has a lot of potential. I mean, you just look at him, he's big for the weight, he has a long reach, he is very aggressive, he has the mentality to fight, and he actually has a better fight IQ than people give him credit for, big power, and the intangibles are there. It's just he's a raw prospect. Not even a prospect anymore because he's had a lot of UFC fights and he's a little, not old, but he's not young. So, but he's just a little bit raw as a fighter, and he needs to kind of round himself out a little bit. And there is potential that he could have done that during this layoff, but his opponent, Carlston Harris, he's been a little bit more active, even though he hasn't fought a ton either. And he's been getting some good wins, some good finishes. His one loss is to Shavkat Rakhmonov, which can't really shame him for that. And he's beaten some guys that are a little bit similar that come forward, throw haymakers, like Jeremiah Wells. So he has some experience against guys like Chaos, even though I think Chaos is a little bit more composed and fights smarter than a guy like Wells on the feet. But looking at this from a stylistic standpoint, I think it's pretty obvious what both guys want to do. Chaos Williams, I think he's going to want to try to stay long, use his striking, find that chin of Harris, who I think is susceptible to being knocked out, and try to stay away from the clinches or grappling too much with Harris, where that's where Harris is going to have a significant advantage, in my opinion, is the grappling. And if Chaos can keep it at distance and use his range striking, he's going to have a decent chance to get the victory. Carlston Harris, he's long and rangy as well, but real weird striking. I mean, he throws strange punches, even though he has power. Just not the most technical striker. But he has really good grappling. The guy can find your back and scrambles really well. Obviously, everyone that watches him all knows about his front choke series that are really good, that Anaconda choke. And he just has decent takedowns and decent ability to drag fights to the ground. And he has good fight IQ. He knows what to do. He fights to his strengths. And I'm leaning a little bit towards Carlston. I feel like even though he looks ugly on the feet, it's more effective than people give him credit for. His defense isn't bad. And I think he can avoid some of the wild haymakers from Williams, and I think he can be competitive on the feet. And ultimately, I think he's going to have a significant advantage in the grappling. I think he could take the back and maybe bank a round that way, bank 2 rounds that way. And I wouldn't be shocked if he finds an anaconda or finds a choke in this fight either. I think Chaos is going to be really tough, hard to get out of there. But I'm going to go with Carlson Harris in this co-main event spot. And in the main event here, this is a stay away for me from a betting perspective, honestly. Style-wise, when I'm looking at these guys, I feel like Edson should get the win, but, man, just the age is throwing me off a little bit. And Edson's chin, man. I just feel like Edson's chin is going. You know, he got dropped by Bryce Mitchell, almost got killed by Sadiq Youssef before coming back to win, and we didn't really get to see his chin in that Billy Q fight tested, but that's a big factor for me, along with him being 38 years old. He looked really good in that Sadiq fight, like I said, which was his last fight, but he did almost get finished early, and he's taking on a young guy who's been winning, looking pretty good, been getting some finishes, but he's been fighting a lot lower level opponents than Edson Barboza, and this is kind of his first big step up, first main event, first marquee opponent that he probably watched growing up and someone that he respects and knows. So there's some pressure for Lerone Murphy, whereas this is just another day in the park for Edson Barboza. And you look at Edson Barboza's career, these are the type of guys that he's made a living off taking out, beating to maintain this spot and kind of stick around, stay relevant, and become the legend that he is. But at some point, that well is going to kind of dry up, and he's going to start to lose to these guys as well. And Lerone Murphy, style-wise, I'm not sold on the guy. You know, I feel like he's a great athlete. He's a smart, high IQ fighter as well, and that's good. I mean, he has some good traits that he uses. I think he has really good defense. He feints well. He could switch stances. He's always moving really well. He controls the distance. He doesn't make ill-advised choices. He usually lets guys come to him, and then he lands and counter strikes. Good hand speed. And he's smart at, if he knows his opponent is deficient in the wrestling, he's going to take him down and use that aspect of his game. If he knows that they don't have good striking, he's going to sprawl and brawl, keep it standing, or get taken out, get back up to his feet, and then take you out there. But he's not necessarily great anywhere. I feel like his striking, it's a lot of waiting, and if he doesn't land that clean shot on Edson, which I think his power is a little bit overrated as well, there could be a lot of lulls of inactivity for both guys. And Edson, I think, is the better striker by far, technically, with his offensive skill set. I mean, we all know how good Edson's Muay Thai is, his kicks, and just everything like that. So I feel like standing Edson, if he doesn't get clipped and hurt a couple times, it could be very competitive. It's just, I don't know, man. Something's telling me that Lerone is going to be able to maybe potentially edge it out or get that knockout. And as far as the wrestling and the grappling goes, I mean, I think Murphy's going to try to take him down and try to press him against the fence. Edson's hard to take down, but I could see Lerone maybe grinding on him a little bit over that 5-round duration. But, man, I just don't have a great read on this fight. I want your guys' opinion down in the comment. Like, tell me what you guys think. You think Edson still has enough juice at 38 to get this victory? Leaning more towards Lerone Murphy. This is a fight that I'm kind of struggling with a little bit, so I'm probably going to be staying away from it myself. But curious to hear you guys' opinions, and if you have a strong read on it, let me know why, and tell me why you're picking either guy. But I'm going to go with Lerone Murphy, and I'll say he wins via decision in this one. I think the overs potentially are something you could target. Maybe Edson gets taken out in that first round, but I feel like Lerone usually doesn't fight like that. He usually fights a little bit slower paced, so I think it's going to probably go longer. But give me Lerone Murphy as the official prediction. And as far as my most confident pick in my parlay of the week, for the most confident pick on this card, I'm going to go with Adrian Yanez. And as far as the parlay of the week, I'll go with Adrian Yanez and Melissa Gatto. So thanks for watching, guys. There you have it. That's the full card breakdown and predictions for UFC Vegas 92, Edson Barboza versus Lerone Murphy. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. And like I said at the start of this video, hit the like button, man. Let's try to get over 100 likes. Put a comment down below. I really would appreciate the interaction. Subscribe to the channel if you're not subscribed. I do breakdown and predictions every week. I'm going to be doing a couple live streams every week with my guy Fitz. So come check it out. Friday, 9 p.m. Pacific time. We're going to be live. Come in the chat. Talk to us. Ask some questions. We'll answer your questions. We're going to give you guys some good potential bets to target there. And check out patreon.com/PredictionGuru. This is the week to do it, man. There's a ton of MMA action all over the board this week. I'm going to have quite a few bets for several different promotions. And feeling pretty good about the slate this week. So definitely go over to patreon.com/PredictionGuru and check that out. And outside of that, guys, I'm out, and I'll talk to you guys later.